Hi guys. I am doing a presentation today about declawing cats, what is part of the procedure, as well as some history and some alternatives to declawing itself. So I always like to start a good presentation with some good old cat videos. Both of these videos are examples of the unique scratching behavior that are both in our domesticated cats as well as in our wild cats.
Is that max volume?
There we go.
Okay.
So here we have our first example of a tiger in the wild showing his scratching behavior here. So this is from Big Cat Rescue in Florida, where they provide enrichment for all of their wild cats. And you can see him here go into a scratching position, which allows him to both stretch his back and scratch his nails. These are things that you'll see in your domestic cats at home. Which is always a pretty cool example I always like to provide to people when they're being cat owners. Look at a wild cat and look at how that's very similar to your cat at home. So next here I have a similar example to, this is actually an ad, should be popping up here in a second. So this is both an example of your cat enrichment as well as
cat scratcher, the editor's choice
scratching
award for
behavior.
#1 best new product in 2014.
So I'm just gonna
More than just a typical scratcher.
scan here, but I'll get to the good part where we actually go into this cat scratching behavior. It's a really good example here. You can see this cat here is doing very similar behavior to that tiger that we saw before. So that's always something I really want to import with our cat owners as well, is that you're able to look at your cat and think, you know, when you're taking him away from his natural behavior, you're actually taking away his wild behavior as well. So now we've gotten through some good examples on why cats scratch and some scratching behavior. We'll go into our cat anatomy here. So when looking at the anatomy of a cat, so this is your typical cat, and this is retracting your nails, which you usually will do whenever you're cutting nails. So you see here with the phalange points here of the nail of this, so right here would be considered your phalanx 1. So that's like this first to your knuckle here. This part here, from here to here, would be your second knuckle part, and then your third from here to here is from here. Whenever you're actually extending your cat's nails, because they're naturally like this, you're actually pushing on that tendon, causing that nail to go out. And so that's what's happening here. So keep this in mind when we go into what the decline procedure actually goes into. So when we go into our decline procedure, originally decline was introduced in 1966 by the American Veterinary Association as an alternative for cat owners that are having issues having their cats inside, but also having them be a good part of the family, not scratching their family members' furniture, other things like that. Ultimately, scratching is unfortunately a natural behavior with cats. But this can turn into something harmful for the human. Owners can choose to declaw their cats to prevent or stop this destructive behavior within their cats, and also to protect themselves and to protect the people in their lives, whether that be children or elderly or things like that. However, decline especially recently has become a very controversial issue. What we see, it's a subject of invention of the procedure. It's become a controversial subject because since the invention of the procedure. So what we see here is now activists are showing that it's causing a lot of unnecessary injury, as well as causing more aggression and different behavioral issues, as I'll go into here. But the decline procedure itself is legit amputation of the toe. So what you see here, this is the incision line of your declaw. So if you remember back to our anatomy, it's legit, this first knuckle here is what's being removed. So it's amputation of that first tip of the toe is what goes into decline itself. And when you look at the anatomy here, here's the regular anatomy of when the cat's standing, when the cat splays its feet out. Whenever you do remove that first phalanx, instead of being at this natural position here where the toes are naturally curled, he's going to be like this. And what that causes is this unnatural angle here, and it's going to cause that tendon to actually possibly snap or become altered in a way that they're not able to ambulate properly. They can start limping, they can have pain. It can also make the arthritis process way sooner than it needs to be. So I feel like you guys probably have a good understanding on what goes into the decline process and why we want to decide not to Why are you laughing at me?
Because it's Raj.
Oh, because it's Raj. On why we shouldn't go into this, into decline. As you can see here with Raj, he's showing his natural scratching behavior, and he's able to stretch his back. Without his claws, he wouldn't be able to naturally stretch his back like that. So he could cause himself lumbar pain or things like that as well. Decline can also cause behavioral problems in the cat. A declawed cat left outside can be even worse. They won't be able to defend themselves. They won't be able to climb trees to seek higher ground, as they are prey animals. If they're ever in a fight, they would be at a lower defense mechanism there. The surgery itself can be really stressful to the cat. Can include hemorrhaging can occur at the nail site, and rare occurrences that we are seeing unfortunately more often with older techniques of decline, we're seeing regrowth of the nails as well, which is causing extra pain for those cats too, especially at an older age. And there are also other risks and complications occurring as there are less proper veterinary training for decline, as there is less of a requirement for decline, as people are starting not to want to do it anymore. So they're not really teaching it as well as they used to in vet school either. So another reason, so those are your reasons not to declaw, are because of this natural behavior that we're seeing here with Raj, as well as for those natural defenses that the cat has too. These are some examples of well-known organizations that are all have advocated against decline. And that includes the AVMA, which is one that I like to point out because that's the American Veterinary Medical Association. That is the exact company that came out with the idea in the first place to help improve the life of cats in their homes, but they're actually showing that it's being detracting because it's causing these other behavioral issues that I'll discuss as well. Others that you would expect to would be, your PETA and ASPCA and the Humane Society. So here we'll go into the alternatives to decline procedure. These alternatives include training, providing appropriate toys and scratching posts and perches for your cats, doing proper nail clipping. There are also other products that I will talk about within the veterinary practice, and spinal nail caps as well. And I will teach you guys how to do that. But basically all these alternatives are extremely important, because we have seen that decline can actually increase aggression in your cats, can actually cause litter box aversion in cats, so they start to spray all over the house because they associate the pain in their feet with actually their litter box. So that can be an issue as well. And stopping this natural behavior can actually cause anxiety and stress in your cats as well. So they can spray around the house, cause other aggressive behavior around your kids, around your family, and overall not being the best that you'd want. So this is a really good example here. This is actually the arm of a couch that Raj used to scratch all the time. And we put a scratching post in front of it, and that completely stopped that behavior. It gave him an option where he could still be with us and be associated with us, but still also provide his natural behavior, and as well as a perch. The American Veterinary Association also recommends that every room has one perch per cat, so that way they are able to seek that higher ground. As you can see over here, a lovely example of seeking higher ground is Bajer. She's seeking the highest ground. And this again is a prey tactic. Cats in the wild naturally are smaller animals. They could be preyed after. And so that's why they want to seek that higher ground to protect themselves. And again, if your cat's declawed in the wild, they cannot seek that higher ground without their nails. So let's go deeper into these alternatives for decline. So first we'll start off with nail clipping. So basically with nail clipping, you retract the tendon like I showed you guys in the first slide whenever we were doing the anatomy. So with the nails simply like this, you just push on it to release. And so what you see here, this pink part is what's called your quick. That's the blood supply of the nail. You want to cut right along that blood supply here. And so that way you're able to clip off any of that sharp part of the nail and the excess, what's called the sheath of the nail, as well as make sure that you're not causing any harm or bleeding to the cat as well. This will reduce the need for your cat to scratch. The reason why cats scratch like that every day is to remove that outer sheath, which is this pointy part here. And if you cut their nails once a month, that'll also help them with that as well. And it's also recommended to start as kittens and do a couple every day, make it a party, tell them they're a really brave cat, and it'll be easier once they're an older cat as well. Next product here is a really awesome product that I highly recommend in our veterinary practice. This is a new product on the market called Feel-A-Scratch. It comes from the makers of Feel-Away. Feel-Away is a natural pheromone diffuser, and it actually mimics the pheromones that mom releases whenever she lets down her milk. So it's very calming, and it's the pheromones from the neck, which is why cats rub. What Feel-A-Scratch though does is it mimics the pheromones that are on the paw pads themselves. It also provides this dark blue line, which will mimic scratch marks as well. It's also infused with catnip to give a sensory output as well for your cat to want to scratch. This visible output will make them think that that's the place to scratch, as well as those pheromones will make it feel like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And it's a really good product that we've seen really good results with. In my practice, I've seen at least 5 cats that we have not had to declaw because of this product. So we highly recommend it. And then here are your vinyl nail caps. So you want to start with your vinyl nail caps by clipping the nails at first. And we have quite a few cats that come in on a monthly basis for their nail cap removal and reapplications, and they are perfect angels for it. They're really good. Cats come into a routine, so once they understand their routine, they get pretty good about these kinds of things. So you first want to cut the nails, then you apply a little artificial nail glue right into the nail cap and apply it to the nail. And as you can see here, it applies these little gel caps, which will protect your furniture, and they do stay for a full month. Once they grow out, you just clip them off as you would nails, and then you can reapply very easily. So, with all that in mind on declawing cats, I would now like to move over to you guys. Any questions that you have for me about declawing your cats? Why to do it, why not to do it, when should you, when shouldn't you? Yes?
Who would be a client you would recommend nail declawing for? In
So-
what situation would be a good choice?
Basically how I feel as a feline practitioner is to look at, if the owner is going through all of these other alternatives that I had mentioned, if you are doing all of those, if they did a good effort and tried, and the cat is still not doing it, and it comes between rehoming the cat or getting it declawed, always get it declawed. Because I would much rather a cat stays at its home where it's loved and happy, and rather than having to be rehomed. But we do make it very clear to owners, this is what you're getting into. These are all the alternatives. We want you and expect you to try all of these before going to that, because it is a very unfortunate, unfortunately it is a much more severe surgery than owners think it is. They think it's just removing nails when it's actually amputation of the digit. Yes, Jessie.
With the advancement of technology, do you think there will become a process that will make it more acceptable and not hard on the animal to declaw?
So there is. There are surgeries with laser, which is cauterizing, so in our practice, unfortunately, we use nail clippers to amputate the nail. And so with the cauterizing laser, you're able to actually make sure that there's no more blood flow. Unfortunately, we are still seeing those regrowth issues. We are still seeing a lot of aggressive behavior, because unfortunately, when you're taking away a cat's defense, they try to find it somewhere else. So we're seeing a lot of increase of biting incidents with cats that are declawed, because they're not able to kind of, not lash out in a way, but they need to be able to feel their own way somehow. So, but that is a good alternative, and that's definitely where we recommend doing. And State College Veterinary Hospital has one, and we refer to them all the time. Any other questions?
Would you ever consider declawing for your animal?
No, but that's because I have implemented a lot of these alternatives, and we have good cats that honestly don't scratch anything they're not supposed to. I will say we do have 6 cat trees for 2 cats in a 1-bedroom apartment, which is kind of ridiculous, but it's what works. And a lot of people might see that as being too much, but honestly, it's what makes the cat happy. So that's honestly what we have to focus on, is making the cat happy rather than making them fit into your household, if that makes sense.
And of the alternatives you have listed, which one would you say makes the greatest impact?
So the greatest impact that I've seen has definitely been with Feel Scratch, but definitely just providing those scratching posts for your animal is number one, the most important thing you can do. Giving them either those carpeted areas, corrugated cardboard, or the ropes are really good for them to be able to have those natural scratching behaviors.
Do the vinyl caps come in glitter?
They come in all colors of the rainbow as well as glitter. I have seen people bring in spares of all of their nail caps, and then we do like rainbow nails sometimes on their cat. We had one client that did navy blue and silver glitter for Penn State nails for their cat, Grey Poupon. So
Have
it's
you
the
ever seen a
Herlockers
cat
cat.
not respond well to claw caps?
I have once, Brad. She didn't really like it, right?
Yeah, she likes to bite them.
Yeah, exactly. That's the issue that we see, is them chewing them off. But then at the same token, once they chew them off, their nails already so worn down that they're not
Because
going to
you've
be
cut them
much of an
beforehand.
issue. Yeah, and plus they're chewing it too. So honestly, I've had a lot more pushback with the vinyl nail caps than any of the other alternatives from
Why do
people.
you think that is?
I think it might be a cosmetic thing. People might think it looks silly. I think it looks awesome. It makes your cats look like it's wearing acrylics, which is hilarious.
What's the price point for the vinyl caps?
Vinyl caps are $10 for 30.
That's a great price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought they'd be like $60.
Yeah, they're more expensive if you get them online, but we have them at our office. And it's only $8 per reapplication, and then for us to remove is $5 as well. So for owners that are coming in, it's you come in and out of the office with a nail trim for $20, and you don't have to declaw your cat. It's not bad.